to only a few years later, now all of a sudden, almost everybody has a smartphone, and by the time I'm in high school, I got a smartphone. By the time I'm in high school, I have a smartphone. Not at the beginning of high school, I don't think, but at some point in high school, I remember I had a smartphone of some kind, you know, and it's just like, it's just experiencing that growing up. Because whenever I was real young, like before elementary school / maybe early elementary school, even at early elementary school, we still use the VCR and play tapes. We had a tape collection at our house. We had the Rugrats orange tape, and we played it on the VCR. And I remember I was in late elementary school, I think. Late elementary school or early middle school or something like that. We got these TVs that had DVD players built in. Had like 2 TVs in the house. They weren't flat screen, they were big bulky TVs, but they had a DVD player included in it. Because we were poor. Even though the technology was coming out, we didn't have it for a while. Okay. Hey, remember the game Snake? Yeah, exactly. They had Snake on that phone. That was all the entertainment that phone had, was a game of Snake. I believe it might have had some other game, but that's the only game I remember, just Snake. And it was like like sometimes I would just play that on their phone, a game of Snake. But then I had a Game Boy, I had a Game Boy Advance, and then eventually I had a PSP. That was the greatest joy for me as a kid when I had a PSP. I felt unlimited power in my hands because they had a lot of free demos on the PlayStation Network store. So I played so many demos of games. But what I'm trying to say is, I saw that great technological leap as a kid. I saw it happening, where all of a sudden, in my childhood, I went from none of us had smartphones, as computers were super expensive, to all of a sudden, everybody's got a smartphone with the ability to do so much in the palm of their hands for so cheap, right? And it's like, and I just think, when I was a kid, I would think, wow, this is crazy how the world is changing. Only, I didn't even have this a few years ago. This is crazy how this stuff is changing, right? And that's definitely a big technological leap. But I also said, what's next, right? Yo, what's up, Jason? How you doing? How you doing, Ash? Yeah, I did have a DS at one point too. It was the gray one. I didn't have a DS Lite. I had like the original gray Nintendo DS, the big bulky one, not the cool slim one or light one. But I was still happy to have it. And I remember in elementary school, actually, no, in fifth grade elementary school, the last year elementary school, a lot of people had Nintendo DSs. And the thing is, Nintendo DS had this feature where if there was any Nintendo DSs around, you all could chat together. So basically, a lot of people on the bus had a Nintendo DS, and we would go on the chat together. before smartphones were around, before kids had phones, but we had the game system that we could sit there and text each other on the bus from. Yep. Um, but when I was a kid, I thought to myself, "Wow, this is a huge technological leap." Even in video games, I saw how much video games had. It was in fucking around the time I was born when they started using 3D, and games were getting so much better. But I thought to myself, what's gonna be the next leap? What's gonna be the next big change that happens? And you know how we grew up with the internet, and I was a teenager when I had all this technology with the internet, but and the old people think it's so complicated sometimes. Not all old people. It's not trying to generalize or stereotype, but basically, that some older people have trouble getting used to it at first. And I thought, what's it gonna be like that for me when I'm old? What am I gonna be struggling to understand, right? Well, recently it was what do you call that? Recently it came to me. Recently it came to me that it's the AI thing. I'm already old. You know, I got some time to learn, but compared to what kids these days are growing up with and know how to do with AI, like it's to me like I can in theory understand how it works, but I'm not comfortable with AI. Not that I'm afraid of it. I'm not comfortable in my ability to use it correctly, and use it in the most optimal way, and know how to use it correctly. Just like an old person, when I was growing up, might not understand how to work an iPhone. That's how I'm looking at all these fucking AI they got now. Like, for months I didn't even know how you got Chat GPT. I'm like, where is everybody getting this thing? And I figured out you could download the app. Before that, they had this AI picture thing that everybody was looking at. I'm like, I forgot what it was called now. Like, I knew the name. Everybody was talking about it last year or whatever. But I was like, where are you guys going to get these generated images? How are you doing this? I don't understand it. So yeah, it's been a sobering thought, to think about. Okay, that I guess that is the next technological leap, that either I'm gonna understand and educate myself about, or I'm gonna get left behind like the boomers trying to understand smartphones. You know, it's crazy. It's crazy what this AI stuff can do, and how it's already changing our world so much. You know, and there's so many predictions. There's so many predictions about the exponential growth of technology, and how that's going to be with AI. it's all very interesting because you know what, the people in the 80s and the 70s who didn't understand computers, in the 70s or 80s, something like that. People thought video games were just a, a short fad. They thought that they didn't see video games, you know, as something that's long term profitable for a little while. They didn't understand. So I can imagine people, you know, not understanding how technology is gonna be in the 70s or 80s. But now, growing up, some people call me Gen Z. I don't know this. They say 1997. It's right. It's more Gen Z, but pretty close to millennial. Like not in between, more Gen Z than millennial, but I'm the older Gen Z. So just growing up for myself and seeing my parents go from using that phone with just a green back screen and no apps or no internet, no nothing, and using a VCR to watch movies, and then seeing all this happen by the time I'm in my 20s, and now we got this all these AI programs and everything. It's like, it's I feel like my generation, the Gen Z generation, they we seen in our own lives how fast technology, as children, we saw how fast technology progressed. So I think there's a lot of people in my generation who really feel like, who are really optimistic about the technological future. If not optimistic, very speculative. In the fact that a lot of us feel like, we've seen technology, few years take over and change our lives. So it's not nothing that we're not used to already. You know. So I feel like maybe we will understand the changes in technology better than like the boomers. The really old people who their lives, it progressed much more slowly back. It's funny to talk about it. Just in their generation, technology progressed much more slowly. Now, the exponential growth of this technology and how it's affecting our lives is so much more fast, and that's a big thing that we look at and take into account in Marxism. You know, a non-Marxist. So one of my friends who I was talking to was talking about this idea. Our technology has changed so much, and the way that we live has changed so much over such a short period of time that we haven't had the time to catch up, socially, politically, materially. Um, and, from a Marxist point of view, it's like our environment, our conditions, our relationship to the production process dictates how we feel, what we think, and also the cultural hegemony. The owner class and their control over media. But that's the thing, that we have a lot more independent media and a lot more circulation of independent media. But I think it's hard for people to catch up to everything, to explain our modern world and how it needs to change for the better, and how we can change it for the better with working class democracy for the workers. To explain all this, when in this capitalist society, they're just focused on the next innovation that's going to change our lives, but not how are people going to afford this innovation. I saw a video recently that explained why TVs are so cheap these days. It's not just because they can get the technology for the materials and make it for cheaper. It's also because with smart TVs, they make more money off the ads that they get, and the data that they collect, and they sell it to advertisers. So basically, they're making more money in the data that they're getting from you when you connect your TV to the internet. When you connect your Roku TV, Amazon Prime TV, whatever smart TV to the internet, they're collecting all your data. And I don't care about that. Who cares? If they want to collect the data so it can be cheaper, fine. What are we gonna do right now about it? But it's like I'm trying to remember where this thought trail was leading to, but it's definitely not sustainable. You can't run a whole economy ads. Yeah, that's basically how America works. Data is the biggest industry, basically. Maybe not exactly correct. Maybe it's not the biggest, but it's one of the biggest. And it's because, they're just collecting data about us to be able to better convince us to buy their products, so we can have less money for things we need, and so we can be distracted by the glory of consumerism and praise capitalism, because so great that you can get any cheap toy from the store, any kind of cheap little thing, how you can get all this variety of goods. Isn't it so great? All to keep you distracted from the fact that they're destroying the environment, slowly making it uninhabitable for humans, and they don't even care. They're ethnically, I don't like the term ethnically cleansing, but I heard somebody use it recently. They're committing genocide. They're using our collective manpower. They're using society's collective resources and manpower to fund all this war and genocide. And we have no democracy. We have no democratic agency in this capitalist system. We have no say over any of it. None of us voted to send these billions to Ukraine. None of us voted to send billions to Israel to commit a genocide. Most Americans are against that. But we don't have no decision in any of that. We don't have no, we have no decision in the process. And so I think it's actually the most noble cause, you know, that, well, you know what, maybe I shouldn't say it, because, you know, caring for people with cancer, helping people, being a doctor, you know, being a foreign aid worker, a humanitarian worker, for, you know, a lot of aid workers and have died in Palestine, directly targeted by Israel, and of course they deny it. But they were multiple occasions riding around different aid organizations, riding around in trucks that are labeled with their organization's name, and with the bomb directly in the center of the logo. So you have them directly shooting bombs at these aid workers. You know, it's a noble cause to be an aid worker or something like that. But you know, I think it's one of the most noble causes is to be an advocate for democracy, especially in capitalism, where they trick you into believing that you have democracy when you really don't. You know, picking which rich figurehead tells us the same bullshit and signs off the same bills to send billions of dollars for war and genocide. It's not, you don't really have a choice. Yeah, you get to choose your aesthetics. Do you want Genocide Joe or Genocide Trump? Do you want cocky asshole or the pathetic fucking disgusting vulture who pretends like he's too old to pretends like he's inadequate, pretends like he's stupid, so people don't think that he's to blame for anything. I've had a lot of liberals try to say, oh no, Biden, they voted for Biden, and Biden's doing everything he can, and he's a good guy. Meanwhile, he's the #1 recipient of aid from Israeli lobbyists in Congress. You know, he's received millions of dollars from Israel to support their apartheid state and enable their genocide. And he wants the regular Americans to think he's just a stupid old man who was being controlled by the deep state. Yet that there are organizations of capitalists who have a lot of power in the government, but they're not hidden. They're not in the deep state. You know, if you want to know where interest lies, it's very simple. There's a capitalist owner class, and They control all of the politics while we control none of it. The average, everyday, working class person has no say in any of this, in any of the government, in any of the laws, in any of the economic policy, and anything our taxes go towards. You know, they try to tell us this country was founded on no representation, with no taxation without representation. Well, we're not represented. The majority of people in the United States are not represented. 0% representation from working class in the government. And those are the people who make our society run. All these essential workers, while the government took off during the pandemic, remember? And they praised the essential workers. Why don't those same workers have a seat in Congress? Why don't all of those essential people who we need to keep our society running have any voice in our democracy? Why do only rich people get to be a representative in our government? Why are there no working class representatives? Why are there no representatives in our government who work a regular job like the rest of us? Because it's an oligarchy, that's why.